What's going on, guys? My name is Andy Naas. You are watching Midwest Lifestyles, kind of a channel, or I'm trying to show videos of what we do up here in North Dakota. Gotta have a lot of hobbies with the long winters that we have and short but sweet summers. Today we are going to take you along and show you how we make our famous Naas Hot Sauce, some salsa. My parents have been making it for probably about 20 years. I would say maybe 10 years ago or so, I started helping them with it. We've kind of altered the recipe. Almost every batch we make, I mean, they're all different. Just due to size of tomatoes, spice level of peppers, sweetness of onions, everything like that. But the feedback that we've had from all of you guys has been great. So we continue to make as much as we can, and we try to get it to everyone who wants to enjoy some of it. I've got about 30 to 40% of our garden here at my house with my wife and my daughter, and my dad and mom have probably about 60 to 65% of the garden that we grow out at their place. Majority of salsa is obviously tomatoes, so we plant the most of tomatoes. We do a lot of the peppers. Of course, we buy some of the other things we need. There is some sugar in it, some other dry ingredients. Other than that, we try to grow what we can, and we've enjoyed doing it throughout the way. So, got to pick some tomatoes tonight. We're making as many batches as we can tomorrow, my dad and I. So, let's get started. Here is my lovely wife, Hannah, and my daughter, Grace. You can see she was helping pick tomatoes. She likes the green ones. Say hi, Grace.
Can you wave? No.
Anyway, we filled all of our flower pots with tomatoes. Had to go get a box. I think my dad has picked about this many out where he lives, so tomorrow we'll make probably 18 to 20 batches of salsa. Should be fun.
So this is called blossom end rot. As you can tell on the tomato, it stops basically growing and it turns black on the one side. This is caused mainly by calcium deficiency in the soil. So some tricks to help combat the blossom end rot would be to use evaporated milk, eggshells, some calcium nutrients in the soil in the spring. We've had some plants that have produced some with calcium end rot, but for the most part we've been lucky and have gotten a good crop this year. You normally want your tomatoes to be nice and round. These are Loroma tomatoes, so they're nice and elongated, and they're nice and juicy, or not really juicy, but nice and meaty. Less juicy compared to your celebrity tomatoes and those types that you would see mainly on a hamburger or a sandwich.
All right, just finished picking all the tomatoes that were ready at my house. Grabbed a bunch of peppers out of the garden too. We are gonna bring them out to my parents' place tonight. My dad will be blanching the tomatoes tomorrow. He's retired, so he's at home. We give him crap that he has all the time in the world, but we keep him pretty busy that I don't think he's gotten to do a whole lot of his own stuff lately. Anyway, we appreciate that, Dad, and he will be blanching the tomatoes tomorrow, and we'll show you a little bit of that process tomorrow. All right, Mother has been doing tomatoes. We've got 6 batches in this big kettle, 5 in that next one, 4 in that one, and we'll have 4.5.
And 4.5 in this one.
And 4.5 in there.
And it's a lot of work.
How's it going?
Good.
So what we do, we throw the tomatoes in some boiling water. We wait for their skins to start cracking. You can see that one's kind of starting there. Then they go from there into cold water, and she peels the skin off, cuts the stem if there is. And then what do you do, Mother?
Then I blend it in the blender, chop it up, put it in the pot. Then we add the spices and stuff afterwards.
All right, it's the next day here. We are just chopping up the ingredients to make some salsa. What we do with the onions, pretty basic. We cut the ends off, take the skin off, chop them up, throw them in the blender, put them in the pool, as Dad says. Then we've got sorted out here, we've got kind of our sweeter peppers and our hot peppers. A little bit different every batch with the quantity, like I said, with size and heat level of peppers. We obviously don't know that until we eat it and test it, but we chop up the onion, we just cut the end off. And then what works best for us to get the skin off, we just run a line through there. We get under that first layer and the skin comes off pretty easy. Then we chop it up. How long have you been making salsa?
We've been making salsa here, I'm gonna say probably 15 years, maybe even a little more. When we started out, it was a big deal if we made 80 pints for the year, for the whole season. Well, so far we're over 1,100. We'll probably end up making 250 pints today. A little bit of an increase.
There you go.
Okay. We've tweaked the formula a few times, the recipe. Added this or that. Sometimes it was too sweet, sometimes it's been too hot or too mild. We adjusted accordingly. But it's a good recipe, people like it. Pretty much get rid of it as soon as we make it. And I still have all my fingers. Even though Andy's kind of a hardcore. He's like, faster, faster, faster. Any faster, I would lose a couple tips of fingers. Ninja works pretty good. It's sharp. Does a quick job on chopping stuff up. We used to clean out all the containers as we went, but not sure why we did that, because everything ends up in the pool anyways. Quick chop. another container. We dump that in the big kettle as we go after it fills up a little bit.
Alright, so here's what I mean by every batch is different. Let's say for a batch we need 5 average sized bell peppers. Well, here's an average sized bell pepper, and we oftentimes get smaller ones, and sometimes we'll even get bigger. So from there, I base a batch off of the quantity of about 5 average, let's say the number was 5 average bell peppers, and I adjust from there. So if they're larger, maybe it's 3. If they're smaller, maybe it's 6. But the reason that we get all different sizes because we grow in an organic garden. We don't spray any of our plants, but some of the nutrients across the garden are different from one end to the other. Let's say we planted tomatoes on the north end last year, and then this year they're peppers. Well, we've noticed over the years that certain parts of the garden produce a higher yield for peppers versus tomatoes. But we don't want to use up all those nutrients year after year by just pounding them with tomatoes. We want to kind of cycle the garden out. So we'll do that. We'll add whatever we need, calcium, nitrogen, or anything, but we don't spray any of our plants. So when I'm putting batches together, I kind of eyeball it. Same goes for the onions. We get all different sizes. Jalapenos here, you can see, we'll get some small ones, we'll get some large ones, and that just has to do with, where the plant is in the sun at certain times of day, water, nutrients in the soil. So I'm always kind of eyeballing it. If they're real small, there might be 80 jalapenos in a batch, or in a kettle. If they're bigger, there might be 40, but the quantity is usually about the same. We try to shoot for a specific number of pints per batch, and typically we are within half a pint, if not exactly on almost every time. Especially we're using the same kettles batch after batch, so we can tell when we have enough ingredients in there. But that's just kind of a little tip for you. That's what works for us. The bell peppers here, we do take out the seeds just because they don't really blend up any smaller than what the seed is, and we don't want our salsa having a consistency of 10 seeds per chip when you're eating it. So these are sweet peppers anyway, and the seeds wouldn't really make it hotter or anything. It's just that we don't want the actual salsa just being full of seeds. So little tip of the day for you. I mean, towards the end of the season, like I said yesterday, we do plant the most tomatoes out of anything. So towards the end of the season like this, we will often have to buy a few more peppers than we'd like to, just because we've used our supply that we've grown. So today I did buy just a couple bags, but we usually shoot for the organic ones just to keep it that way. Sometimes people will ask, but we feel that it kind of stays a little more true to our homegrown, homemade recipe that we've used forever.
We got our furniture delivered a year ago tomorrow. Alright. And the one piece downstairs, so it separates, you know? Not today, 18 days. What did you want to do on this other? I didn't know it was tomorrow. I knew it was September. I just went looking, it was delivered on the 11th. It was on anyway, so I just peppers. Soon going in the pool.
Yeah, that's order.
Tomato paste. Help thicken it a little bit. X amount of cans per batch.
Without the paste, it would just get way too thin, boiling off most of the juice from the tomatoes. So this just helps with the consistency
And flavor.
and flavor. We've got 3 of our 4 kettles on the heat. Basically, it's all the tomatoes, dry ingredients, garlic, vinegar. We've got our onions, our sweet peppers in there, and we are just waiting for it to simmer up and cook for a while before we add the hot peppers. The reason for that is the heat doesn't get cooked out of them for cooking for so long. So we'll get this ready and then we'll add the hot peppers in with about 10-15 minutes to go. And then we will add the cilantro in right before we start canning. Cilantro gives it a good taste, and that's one of the tastes that you do not want to boil out. He's just getting the tomato paste ready for the last kettle. Here we got the cilantro. Got the batches separated. Last thing to blend up here, and it's the last thing that we put in the kettles. Make sure the flavor stays. Got the jars laid out. We added the hot peppers in here, and we have not added the cilantro yet. We'll test it in a few minutes with some chips, decide if it's hot or more mild.
Oh, that looks good. Got some onions, got peppers, got cilantro, not cilantro yet, got hot peppers, tomatoes, all the spices. It's a good recipe.
And these 2 are on deck, along with a third, another one of this size over there. Got the jars ready. We'll get some boiling water out here. We dip the jars and the lids, and we pour the hot salsa into a hot sterilized jar. Helps them seal, sterilizes at the same time. Got some.
And a little Goose Island helps the cause.
You bought a case of Goose Island, got a free golf cart to match.
Adding the cilantro.
All right, we've tested it. We're trying to make this one a hot batch. I think we've hit our target. Add the cilantro in here. Once we get this mixed up, we'll be ready to jar.
That kettle produces about 78 pints. 78 pints. So So yeah, it's brought it to a simmer. It's been simmering for a while. The jars are sterilized. We have hot boiling water in the kettle next to it here. Dip in the jars, rings, lids, jar it. Okay, more later. Okay, here we are, we're jarring. We got some boiling water going there on the second burner of the Camp Chef. And Andy's gonna go ahead and get the water in the jars. He uses the tongs to empty them and pull them out, put them on the table. It's got the lids, you put the lids in there too, so that the lids are sterilized. Okay, dump the water out, pint jar, setting them on the table. Does 3 at a time because it makes it a little bit easier than just trying to do one. And everything is hot, really hot. Gotta watch it so you don't splash in your hands and everything. Okay, then he's dipping in the big pool. Got the funnel, and pretty good at the funnel. Pretty good at judging the. Yeah, right there, perfect. And once you get it on the rim a little bit, you gotta wipe it off with a paper towel before you put the lid on there. So that's what he's gonna do in there next. That's my job, but right now I'm running the camera. So, anyways, he's dipping down in. He's got the lids in there, and he's putting the lids on the jars. And then we have a box of rings ready, and we have more jars ready. So again, that's my job that he's doing right now. Doesn't do it quite as good as I do, but he's doing it.
Usually we have Hannah here to help us.
Oh, Hannah.
She's the jar lady.
Hannah
so
is
I'd be
the best.
pouring and she'd be doing the jars.
I swear when Hannah's doing it, she's got 4 arms. She's so ambidextrous. She's just moving things, doesn't waste any motion. So yeah, so we got the boiling water going there, and we got the salsa pool here. We got number 2 on deck, number 3 in the hole, and number 4 on the step. So yeah, at 7:30, we'll be probably at this until 9 o'clock or so. I'm thinking we're gonna do somewhere around 250 to 260. More later.
We got 2 more kettles, probably another 106 jars.
And so far we've done 140.
Done 140 tonight. Long day.
1 kettle, 1 beer.
1 kettle, 1 beer. We'll see you at the end. That's a wrap. 253 pints tonight. Some of them are over there. About half of it was hot and half of it was our mild medium blend.